The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good morning. I'm your host, Babak Roshandeli, and these are your 11 a.m. sports headlines. We start today with the NHL playoffs and a dominant display from the Edmonton Oilers. Goalie Stuart Skinner made 23 saves, earning his first win of these playoffs as the Oilers stifled the Vegas Golden Knights and won 3-0. They now lead the series 3-1. Edmonton's depth players stepped up in the win as Evander Kane provided a goal and an assist, while Adam Henrique notched a couple goals as well. For Edmonton, it was all about how they would respond after the disappointing finish to Game 3. They will now have a chance to end the series tomorrow in Vegas. The other game from last night saw the Carolina Hurricanes improve to 5-0 on home ice this postseason as they defeated the Washington Capitals 5-2. For Carolina and their suffocating style of play proved to be too much to handle for the Caps, and they now take a commanding 3-1 lead in the series. For Washington, they will need to get more scoring from their forward group and fast, otherwise they will be going home early. And wrapping up our NHL playoff update with game day for the Winnipeg Jets. The team will be aiming to pick up their first road win of the postseason tonight in Dallas. Stars defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to return to the lineup after missing over 3 months following knee surgery. The 25-year-old Finn recorded 25 points in 50 games this season. For the Jets, head coach Scott Arniel is focusing on consistency from his group of players.
At the end of the day, this group all year long has been able to respond. We have good leadership, and guys recognize that there's areas that we have to be more consistent with. We have to improve on, build on some areas that we were good at. But at the end of the day, this is the one thing about the playoffs. It's the next game.
Dallas leads the series 2-1. Puck drop is at 5 p.m. Shifting now to the hardwood, as the NBA Draft Lottery was held last night, and there was no shortage of talking points. The Dallas Mavericks, who made it all the way to the NBA Final last year, have won this year's first overall pick and the right to draft #1 ranked recruit Cooper Flagg. The Mavs, who entered the lottery with a 1.8% chance of winning, will be welcoming the franchise player to their organization just mere months after trading away all-star guard Luka Doncic. The lottery was not a success for the Toronto Raptors, however, as they dropped down to the 9th spot despite having a 32% chance of picking in the top 4 and a 54% chance of picking in the top 7. The draft will take place on June 25th and 26th in Brooklyn, New York. Staying with the NBA and a couple big results from last night's games, the Golden State Warriors are on the brink of elimination after dropping Game 4 to the Minnesota Timberwolves by a score of 117-110. For the Warriors, the absence of future Hall of Famer Steph Curry is a massive loss, and their hopes of a comeback will be hanging by a thread if he can't recover in time for the next game. The Boston Celtics are also down 3-1 in their series, as they lost 121-113 to the resurgent New York Knicks. To make matters worse for the Celtics, star forward Jason Tatum was helped off the court with what looked like a serious leg injury. Back to the ice now and the IIHF World Hockey Championships. Today's morning results saw Latvia record a big win over Slovenia, taking the game 5-2. Germany won by the same scoreline against Norway. Team Canada will be taking to the ice imminently as they look to build on their 7-1 win against Latvia. They will be facing off against France at the Avicii Arena in Stockholm. Puck drop is at 11:20. And wrapping up now with some baseball action from last night. The Seattle Mariners' woes continue as they dropped their season-worst 4th game in a row. They lost 11-5 to the New York Yankees, who had a big 5th inning, scoring 6 runs. Yankees center fielder Trent Grisham hit 2 home runs in the win. For the Mariners, the loss comes after a weekend sweep at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays. They host the Yankees again tonight at 6:40. Those are your sports headlines till 11:15. Tune in again at 12:40 for more. I'm your host, Bobak Roshandelli, for BCIT's The Crow. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you again next time.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Increase in careers and leadership positions for Indigenous peoples. To report on stories on Indigenous affairs and matters to the country's population. Accompany reporter Eden Chipperfield and her colleagues in their journey in understanding Call to Action 84 to bridge Indigenous storytelling into Canadian journalism.
For decades, Canadian media has perpetuated harm against Indigenous communities through the reinforcement of averse stereotypes, linking Indigenous with drug and alcohol use, greed, and savagery, narratives that have dominated Canadian media. In his book, Decolonizing Journalism, A Guide to Reporting in Indigenous Communities, journalist Duncan McHugh has raised concern on how Canadian reporters should be aware of stereotypes and bias that they may hold when covering Indigenous-centered stories. A goal of our work was to speak with Indigenous journalists who have been at the forefront of advocacy in newsrooms. When we heard back from esteemed journalist Wamish Hamilton, we knew that this venture would help us gain the insight and depth to understand how to honor these stories. Wamish joined us on a Thursday afternoon at the BCIT Burnaby Campus to discuss the importance of Call to Action 84 and his perspective on reporting in Indigenous communities, specifically for Canadian journalists like ourselves to consider.
You do the best that you can. You come to this with what you do, what you know, and what you can do, and you do the best that you can. My name is Wamish Hamilton. I'm the Indigenous Affairs reporter at CBC Vancouver. I do stories about Indigenous people, communities, and issues, both in BC and the larger, what I call macro issues that have relevance to First Nations across Canada. I was there the day that report was released, the day the calls to action were released. I was doing my internship at CBC Manitoba when the final report was issued. So I went to that press conference. But to me, Call 84 is more than just a request for support. To me, it's a moral obligation. It's a beckoning for media outlets such as CBC, because it's the public broadcaster. It's a moral obligation being put to them. It's a beckoning. It's, you need to do better. You need to be as best as you can because you set a standard, and you need to do better.
When discussing reconciliation, Wamish connects the process of Call to Action 84 to taking care of a growing child who must be nurtured and not pushed away to the side.
That day a kid was given birth to. Right now it's only 10 years old. It's still growing. It's still got room to grow and mature. But the fact is that to me remains the same. It's a constant. It'll always be a moral obligation to me. I even need to do my part, even though I'm Indigenous and a journalist, to help make that call better, to do my part to make that call better.
He also spoke about the importance of being prepared through prior research, explaining the angle of the story and what you are doing, and letting the interviewee tell their story no matter how long it may take, even if that may frustrate editors who are motivated by deadlines and quotas.
I think APTN was mentioned, if I remember right.
Tina House is a Métis video journalist who works at the Aboriginal Peoples Television Network, or APTN. APTN is a world-leading network that has been advocating for Indigenous peoples to join the broadcasting industry. In our interview with Tina, we discuss the efforts APTN have pioneered.
Yeah, I really do want to encourage Canadian journalists to, again, stay away from the general stereotypes of Indigenous people, to seek out those success stories, because there's millions of stories out there of Indigenous people that are thriving at business and education, that are in their careers. I mean, we've got doctors, lawyers, we've got...
Tina has won many awards, such as the Amnesty International Human Rights Journalism Award for investigative story on missing and murdered women and girls. She became the first Indigenous woman to win the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Reporter.
When I'm telling stories of murdered or missing Indigenous women or girls or residential school survivors, it's like I'm a conduit and they're speaking through me, and I'm their voice now.
From our conversations with Wamish and Tina, we wanted to branch their knowledge into resources that are available for us and other Canadian journalists when considering the reporter's checklist as well as the call to action. We met with Kayla Larson, the acting head librarian and Indigenous Program Services librarian of the Wishwa Library located at the University of British Columbia. We connected with Kayla to understand more about the wealth the library holds and how it can help journalists like ourselves become more educated on Indigenous affairs and Indigenous ways of learning and perspectives.
My name is Kayla Larson. I'm originally from Treaty 6 territory. I grew up in an area called the Misquachee or the Beaver Hills in Newhiawayan, which is the Cree language. So I grew up about 45 minutes east of Edmonton, or Misquachee Waskahigan. That's its traditional name. Currently, I am here at UBC working in the Huihua Library. My role within UBC at Huihua is the acting head of the branch, and I've been the acting head of Huihua since January of 2024. We just bought... So Huihua Library is the only Indigenous-focused academic library in all of Canada and one of two in all of North America. And so our closest sister library is the Labriola Data Center at the Arizona State University. And so that's our kind of closest similar library. So Huihua Library...
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Welcome back. I'm Eden Chipperfield, and these are your news headlines update at 11:30. In a surprise return to politics, former Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson is moving back into the cabinet as federal housing minister, as part of Prime Minister Mark Carney's new cabinet. Robertson is best known as Vancouver's longest-serving mayor, but has also received much criticism. Robertson led the Vision Vancouver Party and won 3 civic elections in 2008, 2011, and 2014, but did not seek re-election in 2018 due to a steep decline in popularity for the party. In more Vancouver news, today the Chinatown Storytelling Centre, along 4 Asian Canadian transplant surgeons, are holding a conversation to discuss the progress of organ transplants in British Columbia. The conversation is significant as Asian Canadians were once banned from practicing medicine. The event will be moderated by Shiona MacDonald, an award-winning filmmaker and director of the Knowledge Network documentary series Transplant Stories. In other national news, Alberta Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver has resigned from his post in the cabinet. This move comes under speculation that McIver will run for the Speaker of the House position, which is currently vacant. McIver was first elected in 2012 after a decade as Calgary's city councillor. In response to this recognition, Premier of Alberta Danielle Smith said she is grateful for McIver's dedication in serving Albertans. In the meantime, Tourism Minister Joseph Chow will take on McIver's vacated position on an interim basis. The Manitoba government has issued an evacuation order from Nopingming Provincial Park due to growing wildfires. The province says that the blaze is near the Ontario border is currently out of control. There's supposed to be rain and cooler weather in the forecast for Manitoba this week, but closures will remain in place until the conditions improve. Now turning to updates down south. The head of United Healthcare, Andrew Whitty, is stepping down. ABC's Sherry Preston has more on why the announcement is significant.
United Health CEO Andrew Whitty says he's leaving for personal reasons, but his resignation comes as United faces one of the most challenging periods in its history. Since the December murder of company executive Brian Thompson, United has been sharply criticized over its coverage and denials of claims. United Health revenue topped $400 billion last year, but this year the company has suspended its full financial outlook, saying higher than expected medical costs have made predicting the financial future difficult. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu has stated there is, quote, no way Israel will cease its war in Gaza, even if a deal is reached to release more hostages. The comments came after a visit with wounded military war veteran Netanyahu said that Israeli forces are days away from a promised escalation through entry of Gaza. The prime minister added that any ceasefire deal would be temporary, vowing that Israel will not be the one to stop the war. Continuing his Mideast tour, U.S. President Donald Trump said he wishes to settle relations as well as lift imposed sanctions on Syria to, quote, give the country a chance at peace. Trump is set to meet with Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa in Saudi Arabia. In the first day of the 78th Cannes Film Festival to showcase new upcoming features from anticipated directors, including Ari Aster, director of Midsommar and Hereditary's new film Eddington. Cannes jury president Juliette Binoche commented on the proposed 100% tariffs that President Donald Trump has planned for films made outside the United States.
I understand President Trump is trying to protect, and we understood that from the beginning. He was trying to protect his country, but for us, I mean, we have a very strong community of filming on our continent in Europe.
Reality star Kim Kardashian testified in court today regarding an armed robbery she was victim to while visiting Paris in 2016. Kardashian testified she feared being raped or killed while tied up and robbed at gunpoint while the men involved stole $6 million in jewelry. The trial has ignited debates around living publicly and the cost of fame. Now turning to weather, the weather forecast is mostly cloudy at 13 degrees with a high of 17 later today. Those have been your news headlines at 10:30. I'm your host, Eden Chipperfield, for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
I am your host, Caleb Templeton, and here's what's going on around the sports world. We start off in hockey as the NHL playoffs continued last night. The Edmonton Oilers beat the Vegas Golden Knights 3-0 last night to take the 3-1 series lead. Edmonton goaltender Stuart Skinner credited his defense for his shutout performance.
All I can really say is thanks to the guys playing in front of me. They were amazing tonight. Made my job a lot easier. They were battling, a lot of block shots, and I mean the way that we played defensively was superb.
Vegas will host Edmonton for Game 5 of the series on Wednesday. The Carolina Hurricanes defeated the Washington Capitals 5-2 to take the 3-1 series lead. Carolina forward Andrei Svechnikov scored his 7th goal of the playoffs, putting him at 2nd in playoff goals for 2025. The Eastern Conference's #1 seed Capitals will look to avoid elimination as they host Carolina in Game 5 on Thursday. Also around the hockey world, the IIHF World Championships are currently happening in Sweden and Denmark. Team Norway beat Team Germany 5-2, and Team Latvia beat Team Slovenia 5-2 as well last night. Team Canada is currently beating Team France 1-0, and Team Hungary is currently beating Team Kazakhstan 1-0 as well. Both games are currently in the first period. 2 playoff games were also on the NBA's slate last night. The New York Knicks defeated the Boston Celtics 121-113 in New York to now take the commanding 3-1 series lead. Celtics All-NBA forward Jason Tatum had 42 points and 4 assists in the loss before he suffered an apparent leg injury while going in for a rebound. Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla spoke on how the team will deal with Tatum's injury.
I have no idea. I got back there, talked to the medical staff. They told me it's a lower body injury, and they're going to get an MRI tomorrow. So, we'll see where it goes from there.
The Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the Golden State Warriors 117-110 in Game 4 of their best-of-7 series. Timberwolves All-NBA guard Anthony Edwards had 30 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in the game. With the win, Minnesota now takes a 3-1 series lead over Golden State before Game 5 in Minnesota on Wednesday. The Dallas Mavericks won the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery last night, resulting in them obtaining the first overall pick in this year's draft. The favorite to be drafted first overall is Duke forward and guard Cooper Flagg, who won the Naismith Trophy in 2024. The Toronto Raptors had a 7.5% chance of obtaining the first pick. Despite this, Toronto ended up with the 9th overall pick in the draft. The draft will happen in late June. The BC Lions have announced that world-famous rapper Snoop Dogg will perform before the Lions' Week 1 game. Snoop Dogg's performance will happen before the game starts. The Lions will be playing their rival Edmonton Elks at home to open up the 2025 CFL regular season. The NFL has revealed a few more games that will happen during the 2025 NFL campaign. The NFL announced that 3 games will be played in London, with a game being played in Spain, Germany, and Ireland as well. The Los Angeles Chargers will play an unnamed team in Brazil for Week 1, while the Kansas City Chiefs will host the Denver Broncos on Christmas Day. In baseball, the Seattle Mariners lost to the New York Yankees last night 11-5. They will play the New York Yankees again today to look to end their 4-game losing skid at 6:40 p.m. The Toronto Blue Jays had the day off yesterday and will start their 3-game homespan against their rival Tampa Bay Rays. Toronto is currently coming off a 4-game winning streak. Former Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet will not be out of a job for long. The former Jack Adams Award winner is expected to be hired by either the Philadelphia Flyers, Boston Bruins, or Seattle Kraken in the next few weeks. Tocchet had a record of 108, 65, and 27 with Vancouver. Those were your 1140 sports headlines. I'm your host, Caleb Templeton. You're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Baking can be therapeutic.
For Valentina, it's more than a hobby. It connects her to her home roots. Reporter Caroline Doyle took a deep dive into what makes her different.
Bento cakes, like small cakes. Have you tried Dubai chocolate?
No, it's not.
Well, you have a chance.
Valentina brings us into a large white kitchen. The bright light from a light fixture shines over the white marble island. She places chocolate chips, a bowl of white chocolate, and a flaky pistachio filling. While she tempts us with desserts, she shares with us her origin story.
I was born in central part of Ukraine, in Poltava region, after war, because currently my family cannot move because all males cannot exit Ukraine.
Valentina made the move to Canada 2 years ago to escape from war-torn Ukraine. She says she struggles to learn the language and customs. Despite this, she rises to the occasion.
So I have here traditional Ukrainian bread. It calls paska.
A loaf shaped like a round cake. It has white icing on top and silver sparkles. She also placed delicate edible butterflies made from thin baking paper.
Every year for Easter, there are like 100 variations of it. For today, I made a simple version with cottage cheese.
Depending on the region, it can be sweet like cake or savory like typical bread used for cheese or meats. Today, she brings us Canadians a sweeter version. But baking isn't new to Valentina. She's a natural starter.
My mom was a baker, and she baked a lot of great cakes, and I was exposed to everything, but I didn't try baking some cakes. I was just helping her. That's it. I have a photo when I was like 2 years old, and I was helping my mom with baking at that time. So I think that baking was part of my life all the time.
She often shows her mom her recipes. Her mom is her biggest fan and critic. Valentina says this is just the way Ukrainian moms operate.
I send her all my cakes, and the thing with these 3 European moms is they're super judgy. She can tell me, well, I think this cake is not as good. I wouldn't buy this one from you. Or like, oh, okay, this one is okay. And if someone in Ukraine says it's okay, that means, wow, that's fantastic. And another difference between Ukrainians and Canadians, in Canada, everyone will tell you, oh my God, that's the best thing I have ever seen.
Baking in her kitchen connects her back to her childhood and to her family.
So I'm the only one from family who immigrated. I'm the only one from family who immigrated to Canada.
Each of Valentina's cakes is layered with effort and culture. People took notice to this, including Sophia, a client of Tina's.
The fact that she's a young female businesswoman in Vancouver, and she's just starting. I kind of want to support her, as well as the fact that she's from Ukraine. I know that she's been going through a lot of things. So it just kind of speaks to me to support someone who is trying to bring up their business from the ground.
Valentina decided to immigrate to Canada for peace. Even with the crumbling political state of Canada and the U.S., she still finds a way to joke.
Why I chose Canada was that we don't have a crazy neighbor. Like Russia, close to Ukraine. Right now I'm second guessing.
When it comes to her baking, she doesn't mess around when it comes to quality. She takes her products seriously. She doesn't cut corners. No mixes, no shortcuts, and no store-bought sponge.
I even had a fight once because I said to her that if you cannot make a sponge and you do it with store-bought box, you're not a baker. You're not allowed to sell it.
Dubai chocolate is one of Valentina's highly requested treats. A few of her followers on Instagram reached out to her after seeing it trend on social media. They asked if she could make it for them. Bakers can't be choosers.
Okay, so we have white chocolate here, and I use just a tiny bit as a sweetener. I add it to the pistachio paste, mix everything, and then I have kadaifi dough that I fried with a little bit of butter. So we will mix everything together, and that's gonna be our Dubai chocolate filling. Since this is a small bar, it's comparing to the real Dubai chocolate, it's way less filling than in original Dubai chocolate. But you'll have the flavor and you'll have the crunch.
We asked Valentina, why did she want to start all this? She says she did it to learn.
One of the purposes why I started all this small business is to feel the audience here and about people's preferences and what they want and what they don't want. I have a document with all my ideas and some notes. It was good, it was horrible, no one loved it, or everyone loved it, I will leave it. That's like, I would recommend everyone who starts a business to start small. Yeah, I had a photo shoot with all my pascas last week, and I've done some fun video, like when I was eating and just laughing and joking about everything. So good.
Valentina will keep rolling out her pascas. In an otherwise turbulent world, she finds her joy and community through Tina's Pastry Shop. This documentary was edited by Avia Boulay and produced by Isabella Vertone. I'm Caroline Doyle, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Gabe Liesi here with BCIT's The Crow. Thank you for tuning back in. Here are your sports to 12:10. The lone NHL game tonight will see the Dallas Stars play host to the Winnipeg Jets in Game 4 of their second-round Western Conference Series. Dallas is up 2-1 in the series after winning Game 3 5-2 off the back of a 3-point Mikko Rantanen performance. Rantanen will look to extend his lead atop the scoring race in the 2025 NHL postseason. He is sitting on 18 points through 10 games, one ahead of Edmonton Oilers captain Connor McDavid. The Jets will look for their first road win of the postseason to avoid going down 3-1. Jets defenseman Josh Morrissey says his team needs to rely on its experience.
We can look at some of those moments in games where something doesn't go our way, and maybe it compounds a little bit, and be better able to handle that in the future. But like I said, we're very much in a competitive series right now, and obviously tomorrow's game is massive.
Puck drop is at 5 p.m. this afternoon. The Toronto Blue Jays begin a 3-game series at home tonight against American League rivals Tampa Bay Rays. Right-hand pitcher Jose Barrios will start for the Jays. Shane Baz will start for the Rays. The Jays swept their 3-game series against the Mariners this past weekend and are 6-4 in the month of May. The Indiana Pacers are 1 win away from a ticket to the NBA's Eastern Conference Final. They currently have a 3-1 series lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Pacers took Game 4 by a score of 129-109, pushing the Cavs to the brink of elimination. Tip-off in Game 5 is at 4 p.m. from Rocket Arena in downtown Cleveland. The late NBA game tonight will see the Denver Nuggets take on the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 5 of their Western Conference second-round series. The series is currently tied 2 games apiece after the Thunder squeaked out a narrow 5-point win on Sunday night, 92-87. The Nuggets' Nikola Jokic and Thunder Shai Gilgeous-Alexander both scored more than 25 points on Sunday and will be hoping for repeat performances. Tip-off is 6:30 tonight in OKC. To the gridiron now. The NFL unveiled its 7 international games today for next season. It is the largest slate of international games in one NFL season. The Chargers will host the first one of the season in Sao Paulo, Brazil on September the 5th. Their opponent will be revealed tomorrow night along with the rest of the 2025 NFL schedule. The Minnesota Vikings will play in consecutive weeks in Ireland and England. They first face the Pittsburgh Steelers in Dublin on September 28th and then head to London to face the Cleveland Browns on October 5th. The Vikings are 8-0 in international games, including 4-0 in the regular season. A local story to wrap now. My colleague Avia Boulay spoke with a local psychologist about the benefits of counseling for young students.
Teddy Chu is a registered clinical counselor in Vancouver, and he owns his own private sports psychologist practice, Wave Performance and Wellness. Chu specializes in helping teenage athletes with clinical or mental struggles they might face during the game. He counsels teens playing individual or team sports to benefit their game, but also gives teenagers the skills they can take throughout their lives.
I always stress the importance of let's help you develop the best that you can be as an athlete, but also develop your identity outside of being an athlete. So, the skills that we learn for anxiety management, for building confidence, for stress management, goal setting, these are all skills that they can use within their sport, but also take it with them and apply it to their academic life or even their relationships with their friends, their family, romantic partners.
Student athletes around Vancouver are benefiting from specialized forms of counseling. Avia Boulay, BCIT News.
That was sports to 12:15. I'm Gabe Liesi. Thank you for listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Hundreds of thoroughbreds compete at Vancouver's Hastings Racecourse each year. But what happens to them once they cross the finish line for the last time? Reporter Leah Warren has more on how one local society rehomes retired racehorses.
This is New Stride Thoroughbred Adoption Society, a charity whose mission is to rehome retired racehorses from Vancouver's Hastings Racetrack. Carmen Forshaw,
Program Coordinator of New Stride Thoroughbred Adoption Society,
along with a slew of volunteers and a board of 8 members, including Grant McDonald, who owned racehorses for years.
Happy to be here.
Runs the show.
New Stride was founded in 2002. It was founded by a group of concerned, we call them backstretch workers, people who work at the track, who could be trainers, could be grooms, could be owners, breeders, anybody who works at the track. And they really wanted to, or saw the need for homes for the horses after they were finished racing. So that meant whether they were injured and needed rehab and then could go on to other careers or be recreational horses. And that's how that all started.
Good girl. You're just gorgeous. I can stare at you.
So what do the lives of racehorses look like?
Well, they're born, of course, pulled out of the mare, and they're well looked after. They're looked after like you'd look after your kids. They're a valuable item, and you excuse me, get to like them. And late in their yearling year, they're often broke. Their owners are broke too, but they'll be given over to somebody that knows how to train them to ride and steer and back up and behave themselves. And they're usually put away and then brought out back out in the spring after the January 1st. They'll be a 2-year-old, and they'll be trained to run in company with other horses and move in and out with other horses. Eventually they'll go to the starting gate and get trained how to handle that, which is sometimes quite an experience. At 3-year-olds, they start to run and either become champs or chumps. They keep running until the day and they'll tell you, I've had enough. They'll come out and they'll run fast. Our old horse, he'd run fast in the morning and we think, ooh, we got something here, give him out in the afternoon. He just wasn't interested. He didn't want to race anymore. So it's quite common.
Often by the time they are 5 or so, they're done racing. Some of the top horses go on longer, but for the most part, for different reasons, they're too slow or they have had a minor injury or they're just not into it. So our average age would be about 4 or 5 of the horses that come in here and that we retrain. They normally come pretty excited and amped up because being a top level athlete, they're fed very high energy food. They go out and gallop, and that's pretty much all they do. They gallop, they do a bit of walking, and then they wait for their next gallop. So that's all they know. And when they come here, a gate opens, they need to rush through it because that's what they've been taught. When we lead them out of the barn, they're in a hurry because they figure they're going off for a gallop. So they have to learn everything. They have to learn to stand, to be groomed. They have a very short attention span at that point because it usually will take just a few minutes to get them groomed, tacked, and out to the track. So they learn to slow down. Depending on the horse, it can be a few months process, and sometimes it's almost a year. And little by little, when they are accustomed to their new surroundings, we start the riding process, or at least taking them into the arenas and the different places on the farm where there is no track, and teach them that life is going to go by a little bit more slowly. Okay, this is Henny. So she's just on a walk program at the moment, and that's probably all I'll do with her today. I'll check her steering and her stop-go.
responses, and we'll go from there. Right, baby?
Good girl. Yeah, you're doing great. Yes, you are.
Carmen does a great job of training them for new jobs. Some of them can jump, others dressage, others are family riding horses. The odd one, because some of them are pretty high strung, and if ones are unable to perform those things, we quite often find people just want a pasture ornament, for lack of a better term. They'll put them out in the pasture and feed them and kiss them and feed them carrots and whatever else.
New Stride is a small operation where Forshaw, with some help, retrains up to 7 horses at a time. The society, however, can't rehome every racehorse that retires in a year.
You know, I mean, lots of horses retire. Lots of them are sold privately, usually the most sound ones. And the owners and trainers of these racehorses, most of them won't stress an injury, and it becomes where they're not suitable for racing. And some of them they'll be out, like a hockey player, be out day to day. Others will be out for 2 weeks, and others out for the season. And that's what New Stride does, of course. We take in a few that people don't have the connections to sell their horses. And if we weren't around, I'm afraid a number would be euthanized.
The ones that do end up at New Stride, once retrained, are adopted out to good homes. A thorough application process that includes reference checks and farm visits ensures that potential adopters provide suitable homes for the retirees.
Good girl. If it sounds like the applicant will be a good match, they're invited out to meet the horse. Anyone interested in adopting must ride the horse. I always recommend coming out and riding a few times, not just once. It's pretty difficult to even get a feel if you're a match for a horse on one ride. And then once all that's in place, it's pretty much approved, and then off they go. And then they have a new home. They've been good matches. The horses are happy, they're well fed, and the owners are tickled with them.
They can do basically anything. They're bred to run. They love to run. And the thing about a thoroughbred is they never stop. They've got energy to burn. They'll go on all day long. Our old horse, he would do it. All he wanted to do was run, and he wanted to win. Remember one race, he was turning down the stretch, and there was a solid wall of horses in front of him, and we thought, well, he's not getting through there. And the next thing, and the jockey got off, and he said, "I didn't want to go through there," but he did.
For BCIT's The Crow, I'm Leah Warren with co-producer Graciela Cruz Flores.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Trentanero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good morning. I'm Nate Elms, and welcome to BCIT's The Crow. Here are your 12:30 p.m. headlines. Prime Minister Mark Carney has unveiled his new cabinet today and will hold the first meeting tomorrow. Carney says the cabinet is purpose-built to help better position Canada's economy and relationship with the United States.
Canadians elected this new government with a strong mandate to define a new economic and security relationship with the United States and to build a stronger economy for all Canadians.
28 ministers will be supported by 10 Secretary of States who will be assigned to specific policies rather than managing federal departments. The cabinet also features 2 new cabinet positions, a Minister of Artificial Intelligence and a Minister of Government Transformation, modernizing the cabinet's responsibilities. The Vancouver Park Board approved a new urban forest strategy to manage and protect the city's urban forest during a Monday night meeting. The urban forest strategy has not been updated since 2018, and this new plan aims to emphasize fiscal responsibility while increasing urban canopy by 5% over the next 25 years. The aim is to have canopy coverage of 30% across Metro Vancouver by 2050. A new display honoring Ukrainian soldiers is drawing heads in SE6. Reporter Aiden Singh has more on the temporary installation and what it means to the organizers.
Unissued Diplomas is a traveling showcase of students turned soldiers. On each poster board, the stories of 40 students killed in conflict are written. However, not all students were serving. Tetiana Kutlube was simply watching TV when a Russian artillery shell hit her home and killed her instantly. Organizer Anastasia Dubana says that tragic stories like these attract attention to the ongoing war, which she feels is starting to fade away after over 3 years of struggle. She's also restarting the BCIT Ukrainian Club to raise awareness, support, and funding. They can be found at BCIT USC on Instagram. Aiden Singh, BCIT News.
And we have Aiden Singh in with us in studio today. Welcome, Aiden.
Thank you.
So, my first question, what is Anastasia's connection to Ukraine?
Well, she was born there, but unfortunately she fled at the onset of war to Germany with her mother. Unfortunately, her father needed to stick around in Ukraine to support their grandparents.
And what is the BCIT Ukrainian Club planning?
They're planning on hosting a film festival screening purely just Ukrainian films, documentaries, the sort. They're also planning on hosting a lunch full of culturally significant and important foods. They're doing this to, show off culture that Russia is attempting to suppress.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aiden. Now, Calgary Legislature member Rick McIver is the new Speaker of the Alberta Legislature. McIver resigned as Municipal Affairs Minister early today and soon after was voted into the Speaker's job by his peers. He says he's grateful to be in the new role and hopes the Assembly will have patience as he gets settled.
Despite the fact I've watched this show for this important place for almost about 13 years, that doesn't mean I won't mess it up. But with your help, I'll fail along until we get better at it.
The role of the Speaker is to be a nonpartisan referee of question period and debate in the House. In Manitoba, it's already proving to be a busy wildfire season. The provincial government has issued an evacuation order for Nopeming Provincial Park in the eastern part of the province. Other public and private developed areas, some other nearby provincial parks, are also being closed to the public. Lisa Naylor, the provincial minister for emergency measures, says the dry weather has made for trouble.
Grass fires can start this early, but it's been a very big hit. I mean, with how hot it's been and how dry it's been.
Cooler, wet weather is in the forecast for later in the week, and the province says the closures will remain in place until conditions improve. Microsoft announced today that it plans to lay off 3% of its global workforce, projected to affect 6,000 people. This announcement comes after the company's sales and profits beat expectations for the first quarter of 2025. As of last June, the tech giant employed 228,000 full-time employees. Just over half work in the U.S., but Microsoft said the layoffs will be across the globe, specifically focusing on reducing management. Thanks for tuning in. This is Nate Elms with your Midday Update.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon. I'm your host, Babak Roshandeli, and these are your 1240 sports headlines. We start today with the IIHF World Hockey Championships and game day for Team Canada. They are currently leading France 2-0 in a game that is being held at the Avicii Arena in Stockholm. Goalie Jordan Binnington got the nod in net, and the goals have been scored by Bo Horvat and Will Cooley. We are currently midway through the second period, and I'm just hearing that Sidney Crosby has scored, so it is now 3-0 for Canada. The earlier action today saw Latvia beat Slovenia 5-2 and Germany defeat Norway by the same scoreline. Canada will play again on Thursday against Austria. Staying on the ice, but over to the NHL playoffs now. Just one game on the schedule tonight, as the Winnipeg Jets look to even up their series against the Stars. In order to do that, the team will need to pick up their first road win of the postseason in Dallas. The Stars will be boosted by the return of defenseman Miro Heiskanen, who is expected to return to the lineup after missing over 3 months following knee surgery. The 25-year-old Finn recorded 25 points in 50 games this season. Winnipeg head coach Scott Arniel says his team will have to be prepared regardless of how the Stars line up tonight.
We're on the road and we don't have last change, so it obviously, we got to do what we have to do. I mean, it probably means that fourth line, Rantanen will play a lot more with those guys like he has been in the series. But at the end of the day, it's, we've always talked to our group about, if you're out in the ice, whether you're seeing the top line or the fourth line, it's, you have to handle it accordingly.
Puck drop is at 5 p.m. Shifting now to the hardwood, as the NBA draft lottery was held last night, and there was no shortage of talking points. The Dallas Mavericks, who made it all the way to the NBA final last year, have won this year's first overall pick and the right to draft number 1 ranked recruit Cooper Flagg. The Mavs, who entered the lottery with a 1.8% chance of winning, will be welcoming the franchise player to their organization just mere months after trading away all-star guard Luka Doncic. The lottery was not a success for the Toronto Raptors, however, as they dropped down to the 9th spot, despite having a 32% chance of picking in the top 4 and a 54% chance of picking in the top 7. The draft will take place on June 25th and 26th in Brooklyn, New York. Sticking with the NBA and a couple big games on the slate tonight. First up, the Indiana Pacers visit the Cleveland Cavaliers, looking to end the series in 5 and move on to the Eastern Final. Tip-off is at 4 p.m. And secondly, we have a pivotal Game 5 in Oklahoma City as the Denver Nuggets come to town with the series tied at 2. The Thunder will be looking to build off their Game 4 win, where Canadian All-Star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had an impressive 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. Tip-off in that one is scheduled for 6:30. Shifting now over to a local sports story from BCIT. As we all know, sports can take a toll on an athlete's mental health. Throughout the game, there are many challenges an athlete faces. Our reporter Avia Boulay spoke to a clinical counselor about how athletes manage injury with added social pressure.
Athletes competing in high-impact sports are likely to face an injury that takes them out of the game for some time. Gender norms play a role for these athletes when healing. Teddy Chu, a local sports clinical and mental counselor, spoke about how these gender norms impact injured athletes.
Injured hockey or football player, there's a lot of gender norms around mental toughness, right, and having to push through. And that's in sport in general, but when you compound that with, say, a more masculine dominant sport, gender norms do affect that because, as men typically in society, we're taught to kind of just push through, not really talk about our feelings.
These gender norms can impact an athlete's ability to clinically overcome their injury. Sports counselors are there to help them through those mental blocks. Avia Boulay, BCIT News.
And finishing off with big news out of the CFL today, as the BC Lions have announced that legendary artist Snoop Dogg will be performing at their home opener. The 53-year-old rapper will take to the stage shortly before the Lions kick off their season on June 7th. Last year's concert kickoff saw rapper 50 Cent perform in front of a sold-out crowd of more than 53,000. You'll have to get a ticket. Snoop D-O-double-G, only town once in a while. Those are your sports headlines to 12:45. Tune in again at 3:45 for our final update of the day. I'm your host, Bobak Roshandelli, for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
It was like a gut punch. Which to me is ridiculous.
I was shocked because it was more than just, the shock of someone passing away.
I did not think that something like this could happen.
woman with Down syndrome who died from starvation
At the hands of her care provider.
Major systemic changes are in order to help prevent a similar tragedy from ever happening again.
She makes me feel stronger. If she's not with me, then I just feel like I lost her altogether. And I don't want to forget her, so I just keep it with me. She wanted it, but she refused to sleep in the bedroom. The couch was hers. And if she decided she was tired, everybody had to get out of the living room. Because if she loved you, she loved you. If she didn't like you, you would know it. She would always, if she met you, she would ask if she could hug you. When she was here, she would hit on my husband and go, "Hi, Randy." Oh, sweet. She was boy crazy. Like when she would swim at the Special Olympics, she would follow the camera guy around and end up having his camera around her neck. Yeah, she was just sweet, but she could be very grumpy. First, I just, I was just crying really sad. I couldn't believe it. But I mean, I kind of thought maybe she had a heart problem or something like that. Then the police told me malnourishment, and I was like, it confused me at first because I'm like, how? Like, it was sad. A mattress on the floor. It looked dirty. There was urine stains and whatnot on the carpet next to the bed. It was a really small, little, round table with one chair at it where her meals would get brought to her, I guess. I think back a lot, and I feel guilty for not making a scene about it. I don't know. Everybody failed Florence, and I feel like I did too.
I can feel you hesitating. All the thunderstorms inside your head.
When you start to forget what they sound like.
If I knew what you were facing.
Or her cackle. She had the best laugh.
I'd say just come rest your head.
And when you can't hear it anymore. Yeah, I don't like that.
To feel this way.
Court of Appeal made some important findings. They found that the neglect of Florence Gerard was actually classified as abuse, and they recommended that a jail sentence, or they ordered a jail sentence be part of the sentence for Astrid Dahl. However, because Astrid had already gone through a criminal process, they said that given what she had already gone through, they considered that to be time served. So Astrid Dahl never has spent any time actually in jail. I then pushed to say, let's have a coroner's inquest to make recommendations to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And that would be the big advantage of the coroner's inquest. There are some significant systemic failures that have been going on with CLBC. And the issues that happened to Florence were not in isolation, that there were systemic issues that were coming out. The jury provided 13 recommendations, and a lot of those were immediately do this, immediately do that. The urgency there was so significant. And it became clear to the jurors There were basically 5 citizens who were hearing the evidence from the inquest over 2 weeks that CLBC was an abject failure.
Do you like Star Wars? Yeah. Do you like Scooby-Doo? Yeah. Do you like... We have learned how to advocate on a level that I didn't even know existed. The penguins. The photos of Florence in fetal position, laying on a mattress, will haunt me for the rest of my life. And she didn't die of starvation in a week. That was a long, horrible, slow, painful death. There's a hierarchy of disability, and people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are at the bottom of that. It's not just about Down syndrome, but my son has Down syndrome, Florence had Down syndrome, and a lot of people in my community also love somebody with Down syndrome.
Becca, are you kidding me right now? Oh, really?
Every level of government does not value my son. They didn't value Florence. And the people who are supposed to care for them don't see them as human beings. Because if they did, Florence wouldn't have died of starvation. And Florence is not the only person to die in government care. And she won't be the last one until we change everything.
Can you give me a hug?
We need to stop what we're doing and we need to rebuild it.
Okay. Are we playing? Do you want to hand me the Hot Wheels?
And I will keep sharing stories, and I will tell anybody's story, because it's the only way we can create change. I believe that when we tell other people our experience, it gives other people permission to be more open about their own story, because there's also a lot of shame and guilt, and no one should ever feel that.
She's the most loveliest girl I ever met.
What a compliment. So Sarah is a very joyful, curious, friendly individual. She's always really liked being around people.
She loves to play. Physical play, she loves wrestling around, running around, being chased, you know, like any young person, right?
Before I finally found.
Which one is your favorite High School Musical movie? 1, 2, or 3?
All of them.
Do you have a favorite song?
But we're all in this together, of course.
Of course.
I love myself.
Tell me why.
Because I love myself.
Good. What about yourself do you love?
Well, I love being with my friends and classmates and my parents. I've been thinking about being a psychologist because I really want to help some adults and families who have kids with a disability or any other disability they may have.
How's school for you right now?
Well, right now it is pretty fun, and of course we're definitely getting ready for college or university, and mostly thinking about how our future's going to be like.
And is that scary for you, or are you excited?
I'm very excited, but I'm very nervous.
Been nervous? How come you're nervous?
Because I don't know if I'm ready for the world yet.
Yeah, what I want to use is a bunch of curse words when it comes to Florence Sherrard, but I know that's not helpful either.
You look at the complex needs of some people, and the resources aren't there. And you look at those families and talk about burnout, where these people are going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just to support the basic needs of their children. When Sarah was younger, she was well supported by the community services. But what we found with each one of those phases of service is one would go from birth to 3 years old and then just end. The next one would go from 3 to 5 years old and just end. And then from 5 to 12, and then into the high school years. But each one would start and finish, and then you're left hanging, looking for that next resource. Knowing now that you can't rely on another agency or other people, right? We need to bolster our network of people around Sarah to make sure that there are people checking.
Mm-hmm. And frankly, when we first had Sarah, we were so pleased with the number of amazing resources that were available for us to draw from to ensure that she had a really meaningful life and that we were supported in our journey with her. And we had some really wonderful experiences. And her being an only child, it's always been in the back of our minds as we go through life, what will the support be for her as an adult? This gives me no confidence at all that our child will be supported and protected and nurtured by the community around her. My hope for Sarah is a joyful and meaningful life, which does involve support from our community and people to take a step back and give her a little bit more time than we might give a typical individual to be herself, to discover who she is, and to experience the joy that we have experienced by getting to know her and other individuals with a disability.
You got the first part. We'll say she got it. Oh yeah. So is that here?
I think the first thing that has to be done is we need to stop segregating everybody. Everybody has value. We're all different, and that's a good thing. We also need to get out of this scarcity model. There is enough for everyone. There really is. And then the other thing is we need to allow families to support their loved ones. I know that our advocacy is not done.
Girls just want to have funding for Down syndrome.
Well, if you don't try, there will be more Florences.
The hope is on a go forward that momentum will continue on.
Funding shouldn't be a problem. Funding should be the top priority before paychecks.
And the inquest changed everything.
So opening our minds that normal isn't one way.
Give them the quality of life that they deserve.
I think it makes us all a little bit kinder and better.
No one should ever feel like they're in this alone.
No one will accept them, but then how can we support them better?
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.